Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Ben and this is my full unboxing, setup and review of the Dell U3421WE ultra-wide monitor. Ooh. So I've split this video up into two halves. So one was from a week ago, which was the unboxing and the setup, and then the full review. So if you want to just watch one section, you can timestamp below and you'll find exactly what you're needing. So let's jump to me a week ago for the unboxing.
Okay, so for anybody that has been following me on the channel since the beginning, or you've been following me on Instagram for a little while, you'll know that this has been my desk setup since about May. And one of the main things that was part of this desk setup was the LG 4K 27-inch monitor. But as times have changed and my needs have changed as well, working from home, definitely wanted to change things up and kind of try and make it look even cooler and just make it a nicer environment for myself. So in terms of my actual kind of setup, currently I have my MacBook Pro down here, which I use for kind of all my creative work. And I also have a 13-inch MacBook Pro for work. Now that will be important in the decision that I made a little bit later. But in terms of what I need to do now, well, I need to kind of get rid of this to make space for the unboxing. And the reason that it looks very slightly different to how I normally have it in terms of video and everything like that is it's quite large. The box, so I needed to get a bit more wide. So what I'll do, I'll get all of this removed and we can get the box ready for the unboxing. One of the main improvements that hopefully we'll see when I unbox this, compared to the LG, is this huge power brick that is required with the LG monitor. I don't know if it's the size, it can fit an internal power brick, but this thing is massive and I'm glad to get rid of it. So this is what we have picked up. It's the new Dell 34-inch. Now, I know I've not been to the gym for a while, but this box is pretty heavy, so I'm going to put it down here. Oh. In this unboxing, just to kind of give you a closer view of what is happening, I'll be kind of taking the camera on and off this tripod. So what we have here is the, let's twist this upside down, which is interesting. So it's the Dell U3421WE. Now this is what is a huge part, is the display port, the USB-C, the HDMI. There's a lot going on with this monitor. So it is quite a large box. So what we're going to do is get this open. So what do we have? So we've got, this is the stands, this is number one. So the stand is quite hefty, it's probably most of the weight. Put that down here. Now, what we have here is one of the kind of key components of my reason for purchasing this display. So we've got loads of different cables here. So we have the most important one here. This is USB-C or Thunderbolt. Now that is hugely important for what we require for our work MacBook Pro. Awesome, that comes included. We then have a display port to display port. Now, I'll be honest, I don't have a PC, so this is probably not going to be the most useful, but handy to have. We then have this, which is a USB-A to USB-B, I think. Again, probably, I think it might even be Ethernet. I'm not actually sure. Probably something I'll just keep. And I have plenty of them kind of already connected to the Xbox down there. But we've got the HDMI to HDMI. So again, very, very handy to have in the box. Okay, in terms of what we then also have here, this is kind of like monitor stand. And this will be clipping on to the back and giving us that kind of tilt and swivel. So we'll get this sorted. And then we also have the power cords. What I'll do, So what I'll do, I'll pop this back on the tripod and we'll get the actual monitor all connected and move the box. Before I do that though, let me show you the I/O ports on this as well, because that is a huge and mightily impressive part of this Dell monitor. So we have our internal power brick. Now, as I say, with the LG, that was hugely irritating, the external power brick. So that'll help with my cable management. We then have two HDMIs. Now this is running HDMI 2.0, so it's 60 Hertz at 1440p, both the display port and also the HDMI, which for what I own and kind of my workflow and my gaming is really not a huge issue at all. That's absolutely perfect for me. We then have USB-C, which this is uplift, and I think like 90 watts down. So if you have any MacBook Pro, you'll be able to power this as well as run everything, which is awesome. You've then got three USB-A ports here. They're all USB 3. You've even got an Ethernet port. You then have, we've got another USB-C port and a USB-A port. Now that is for connecting to devices. So you would have to use this kind of main one here. So you'd have to use this main uplift one to connect to your device for your MacBook, and then you can connect in your peripherals here, which is mighty. So this basically becomes your entire setup. So you connect to this one and connect everything off it, which is amazing for multi-device connectivity. I love it, really, really cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and connect it. So you get the stand, start connecting. So the stand connects here, and you just have a little screw mount at the bottom, which this, again, very weighty, which is good, because this is a 34-inch monitor. You want this to be, you know, weighty. This just then clips on to allow us to pick up the monitor out of the box, hopefully as easily as possible. And here we have it. So obviously I'm going to take all the wrapping off, I'll put the box away, and we'll get this unboxed. So here we have it. So it's, as I say, 34 inches, it's 1440p, and it's an IPS monitor. So for what I do for work and also things like YouTube, Instagram, just content creation and even gaming, an IPS display is kind of like the holy grail. Gives you the best viewing angles and most colour accuracy. And this monitor has got all the sRGB and everything kind of calibrated out of the box, which is huge for monitors. So I'm going to get this connected up, power to the MacBook, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so let's take you through a little guided tour. Now I've got it all set up. Okay, so here we have it connected to my MacBook Pro through DisplayPort. So it automatically fills out to 1440p. One of the really cool things that I really liked about this monitor, and you probably saw me struggle just a little bit getting everything connected, but is this automatic and kind of integrated cable management. This is really nice. Not all monitors and all kind of stands have that. My previous LG didn't. You do, which I didn't actually mention, have built-in speakers as well. I will be connecting these still to the Harman Kardons, but it's nice to have that. You can see here just the ease of access to get to the USB-C and USB-A. And probably one thing that I will do is use this kind of like tilt mechanism with the stand to get to the cables if I need to, because what I just did was, well, I'm kind of out of breath. But first impressions, it looks really sharp. Now obviously pixel per inch is less than the 4K monitor I've just come from, but the amount of real estate that I'll be getting from this is much better. So I'll be using this, giving you first impressions, but unboxing it. Well, the stand's really great, integrating it, and apart from the actual cable management, which is my own fault, really easy to get it connected. So we'll see you in the next part.
Right, okay, so we have unboxed it, we've set it up, and I have used the Dell monitor for a week now. So the full review, I'm gonna break down into a few segments, both for myself and for you to make order to a review. So going through some of the most important parts, so tech specs and kind of how they translate into real life, compatibility with loads of different devices and if it works for you and what you have at home, the quality of the monitor itself and also the build quality. Linked to that are all the features that come with this Dell UltraSharp monitor, and then really rounding that off with who I would recommend this for and if I would recommend it at all. So let's jump into the review. So tech specs, lots of numbers, lots of acronyms, so let's jump into it and how that actually translates into real life. So this specific Dell monitor is part of the UltraSharp lineup. Now that does come with a 3440 by 1440p IPS monitor. That is running at 60 Hz and colours an entire wealth of the colour gamut. That includes 99% of the sRGB, 95% of the DCI P3 gamut, and overall is an incredibly colour accurate monitor. Other tech specs that come along with this as well. Now through the USB-C port and connection on the back of the monitor, you have a 90-watt power delivery going back to the device you're using. That does mean that any portable Mac, so MacBook Pro or MacBook Air, will be powered regardless of which one you use, which really makes it a one device fits all solution. Okay, so let's take those tech specs and put them into real life. How has this monitor been to use for over a week now? So the monitor I was just coming from was a 4K IPS monitor from LG. It was 27 inches and it was very, very nice. The reason for my move to ultra-wide was to be more productive, and the kind of needs that I wanted definitely suited an ultra-wide setup more than just the 4K. Now, using this monitor for that time, it has been what it is on the box. It has been incredibly color accurate. It has been incredibly amazing for productivity, and I've really enjoyed consuming media on that much larger form factor. It has really filled out the space, and I've really, really liked it. Now 34 inches is actually kind of halfway for ultra wide. So they kind of start at 29 inches, then you've got 34, then they go to like 38 and 40, and you've got the ginormous ones at 49. Now, going to be honest, the 34 fitted for me and my setup really, really nicely. I would definitely kind of measure it out and see what fits in your setup. But 34 inches, I really, really enjoyed it going up from 27. Now, as mentioned, I was on 4K, so has that transition to 1440p been noticeable? So if you have a look at some footage which I got with a macro lens, you can see, if you really get into the detail, those pixels, you can actually see some of them. But in the real world, what you obviously do is kind of take a step back, really enjoy and take in the 34-inch curved ultra-wide. And at that distance, you really can't tell the difference. It does look incredibly sharp. So from a tech spec perspective, well, it ticks every box that I needed. Now, if you are a gamer and potentially needing up to 120 Hz, I would look at other monitors out there. But if you're more of a professional and potentially going to use this as gaming, but not kind of aiming for those 120 frames a second, this is a great choice. So that brings us on to compatibility and what it actually can connect to. So this is one of the sections where this monitor, compared to Dell's other offerings, it really does differentiate. On here, as well as that USB-C 90-watt delivery, you've got DisplayPort 1.4, which is what I have my MacBook Pro connected through Thunderbolt. You have HDMI 2.0, which is what I have my Xbox connected through. And you also have a wealth of USB-A ports on here as well, which is amazing because Apple literally give us a few USB-C ports. So having those USB-A ports to connect accessories to, like microphones or webcams, is a real handy tool. So if you do have a Mac or if you have a PC, you are covered. For PC, you would go DisplayPort, and for any new Mac post 2015, you would just connect this through USB-C and it will work an absolute dream. Now for console gamers, now if you are lucky enough to have got yourself a new next-gen console, in terms of the Xbox is definitely better suited for this. It actually can run at 1440p, and from my experience, it does stretch it out slightly, but there's a really cool feature which I'll come on to later called picture-in-picture. And I've actually been using kind of 3/4 of the display to use on my Xbox and 1/4 on my Mac. while kind of using iMessage and Twitter. So it's a really cool workaround, but actually the sharpness of the monitor really plays into hand here. So for console gaming, potentially this isn't the world's greatest monitor and there are other better solutions out there. But as for me, I've really enjoyed it. Now the PS5 actually only supports 1080p and 4K and then eventually 8K through HDMI 2.1. So the PS5 probably isn't actually the best for this, and I'd probably just leave it alone and connect it to a TV. But if you are a PC gamer and you're not aiming for 120 Hz and you're more of a casual user, this is also a great choice to go along with all the work you'll be doing. So let's talk about the actual quality of the monitor and the build quality. So one thing that is a bit notorious about monitors is you almost have to check them for kind of errors and malfunctions and just things that go wrong with them. So my previous monitor did have a little bit of yellowing at the bottom. It wasn't a major thing, but it was noticeable, and it did have a few dead pixels on arrival. I've thoroughly checked out this Dell UltraSharp, and I'm really glad I spent the extra money on getting this version, which is a kind of more higher tier version, because I found nothing wrong with it. On a white background, it is perfectly uniform. I've not seen any issues whatsoever. On a black background as well, I can't even see any kind of light panels, which is one of the things about ultrawides and IPS. So it's almost like a double whammy, but I found no issues whatsoever. I've also gone over quite extensively, because of my previous experience, to look for dead pixels, and so far, a week later, I haven't found any. Now, Dell also offer a 3-year warranty with this monitor. LG and other manufacturers only offer 1 year, so this is a huge advantage for this Dell. So if you do find anything wrong with it, keep the box and they'll be able to help you out. I guess the phrase, "you get what you pay for," really does come into account here, with Dell looking after you a little bit more than other manufacturers. In terms of the panel itself, so it goes up to 300 nits, so it's not HDR certified, but realistically, for a monitor that you're that close to, I've not needed to go over the 75% brightness, which they recommend. So I do have a little bit of backlighting, and I also have a BenQ light bar that kind of goes down, and it has been plenty bright. I get loads of natural light from here, and the IPS monitor, it's very matte, and it takes in a lot of that light, so I've not had any issues with brightness as well. And that very famous color camera, it has looked absolutely incredible. Any footage that I put into Final Cut Pro or any photography that I've used on Lightroom and Photoshop has looked very similar to what I had got on the LG. In terms of the build quality of this monitor as well, again, you are getting what you pay for. As you can tell from the unboxing, actually kind of connecting this, it was very well built. The stand itself is very secure, it is very hefty, and you can definitely tell that the materials used are very high quality. Now, there are some plastics on the actual monitor itself, but that is just manufacturing. They all use plastics. But everything that you touch and feel all feels really nice. Including the button and toggle switch that you have at the back, they all feel really well built. So I'm very happy with what Dell produced here. So this ultra-wide monitor has tons of features as well. Now, I've already mentioned one of them, picture-in-picture, which is incredibly customizable and has been a lot of fun to play around with. So if you do have more than one device connected to this, it is an awesome tool. As I said, I've had my Xbox Series X connected and had that as a 3/4 view, which has actually fitted out really nicely, it doesn't stretch it out, and connected my Mac at the same time and been able to kind of use both at the same time, which has been really quite cool. If you have two computers, so potentially one for work and one personal, then this has become quite a dream setup. So I'll have my work MacBook Pro connected through USB-C, and I'll have my personal Mac connected through the DisplayPort. It's really simple, you can split it half and half, 3/4, 1/4, you can even have it as a little picture-in-picture. It's really quite useful if you're looking to use two devices at the same time. It also has some built-in speakers. Now, me personally, one of the first things I did was connect it up to the external speakers that I had, because it's got a subwoofer and it just sounds better than most things out there. But if you're looking for an all-in-one, this is also a great choice. So I've done some sound sampling on my Rode mic, so if you want to have a listen in, check this out now.
Okay, so this is the audio test with the Harman Kardon speakers. This is the audio test with the Dell speakers.
How does that sound? I actually didn't think it sounded too bad. Obviously, a pair of dedicated speakers is always going to sound better than something built in, but I was actually quite impressed. They get crazy loud, way too loud for my liking. But the actual quality, I was actually really quite impressed. Okay, so as you can tell, I've had quite a lot to say about this monitor, and a lot of it has been positive. Now, would I have liked potentially to have this as a 5K, 2K, as a 34-inch? Yeah, absolutely. But for a 1440p monitor, I'm really, really happy, and I can't see myself changing this for quite some time. So who would I recommend this for? Well, I would definitely say this is more of a work-orientated monitor than more of a gaming monitor. But if you're looking to improve your productivity, I would definitely say it has improved my productivity and multitasking. If you're a video creator or a photographer, then this is also a really good option. You get that curved display, which can balance out lines, but I would probably watch out for that on photography. But for videography, this thing is awesome on things like Final Cut and Premiere Pro. If you are a PC gamer and not looking for 120 Hz, because the color accuracy of this and the sharpness of the IPS monitor, I would also say this is a really great option. So if you are in the market for an ultra-wide monitor, I definitely give the Dell 34-inch 21WE a high recommendation. If you want to see any more content on things like tech, on monitors, or just anything in general, hit that like button, hit subscribe, drop comments, you know what to do on YouTube. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. That'll be the cutaway.